When it comes to the nice voluptuous world of gaming, I think there is one thing that everyone universally agrees on. Hentai Redemption, the prequel to the current Red Dead anime arc, is probably one of the best games of the last decade. Aside from that masterpiece, Red Dead 2 was also a straight up banger. With that game being out for a while now, I think it's time we put the Wild West and their rootin' tootin' cowboy shootins to the test. Can you beat Red Dead Redemption 2 without guns? This is certainly a tedious question to be asked, though you should consider yourself lucky because I will be your tour guide. Having listened to Old Town Road probably like 26 times in my career, I think that I am more than knowledgeable and overqualified for this run. But before we dive in, let's discuss the rules. Rule 1. I cannot damage or kill my enemies with any firearms. There will be a few exceptions when you are absolutely forced to. For example, standoffs when you are put directly into Deadeye. But other than that, no damaging anything with a gun. Rule 2. Someone that is so devilishly intelligent and genetically superior as you should know that a bow and arrows are not classified as guns, so they will be allowed this run. Melee weapons, throwables, and dynamites can also be used. Now join me as we partake in this Wild West adventure. Will I be able to stop the segregation of Lenny's cheeks in merely the third mission of the game? Will we be able to make it off the dreaded Total Drama Island, aka Guarma? Let's find out. Right off the bat, I'll tell you now that this game is longer than 2 Bibles and 1 Ogma Infinium, or about 5 Infinity Wars for those that haven't gone to college. So if you came here for the actual story, I'm deeply sorry. This run took me 40 hours and 42 video files to get through, so please understand my pain. After finding some peace and shelter with the homies after a snowstorm, Dutch, our leader, wanted us to go find the J station of this game, Micah. But before we do that though, let's go back a bit and give you a quick gist on what's going on. The year was 1899, a time where fleshlights were non-existent and people couldn't state their shitty opinions on Twitter or Reddit. We play as Arthur. This hulking, heaping, perpetual badass was born to basically give everyone that guac guac double-hander without any hesitation. Conceived into a world of darkness and criminality, this man was forged to be the sphincter scientist and destroyer he is. He's also a really nice and wholesome guy. He's a great guy. Wow. After finding the bundle of literal shit, he tells us he found a house that was bumping. This personally hit me because we weren't invited, just like I was never invited to the high school hot guy pool parties. This was no party though. This was a prologue to an ongoing battle with a cancer named O'Driscoll. Immediately, I am prompted to take out my gun, but my knife will do just fine. We're starting off the run here nice. My first 2 tries led to my death. It may be because Dutch and Micah are equivalent to paraplegics out of their wheelchairs when shooting enemies, or because this game really doesn't like melee combat. Just like all my problems in life though, a reach around was all that was needed. Take out a few enemies and then go around back to close the gap with the others. This fight gave me the fuel to light the erection in my heart. From here on out, I would need to play safe. Checking the barn nearby, I was ganked by the enemy jungler, but that's okay, because thanks to my very convincing fist, I was able to get information on a potential heist that would bring us some big cash. This creature here is Chris B, a wholesome and gorgeous being that was named after a channel member of mine who has a micro penis. Our bond will be inseparable. I am his Kim Possible Dr. Draken, and he will be my Shigo this run. John Marston, a fellow gang member, has been missing for a few days, so yours truly had to go find him. Scaling Mount Everest was quite a feat, but Chris B and I were looking for the hottest boy in town. Searching farther and wider than Ash ever did, we found John. He was attacked by wolves, and I swore on my limited edition Kim Possible hentai filled thumb drive that I would protect him. My first tussle with these wolves sent me straight to the Shadow Realm, with my throat being involuntarily f***ed without my consent.
Don't do it! I'm a virgin.
The high ground and a knife was going to be my only option. Fortunately for these doggos, the doctor prescribed a one-time suppository of getting fisted by my knife. Chris B also had a few surprises up his sleeve for these wolves. My man was built like a World War II Panzer Shrek tank, plowing anything in its path. The next mission was big, absolutely plot changing to the current season of this anime. During a hunting mission, I was given a bow. This will be the insomnia to my infomercials, the pedophile to my Chris Hansen, the extends to my erection. This will be the catalyst that gets me through this run. It was time to hit an O'Driscoll encampment. An educational look into the disgusting species known as the O'Driscolls is not needed. This group of vermin is composed of beings that possess no soul, no emotions, and most definitely stole our lunch money back in grade school. This is why I am totally okay with unleashing my pandemic of arrows against these Shrek 2 on VHS looking head ass I really hope that someone made funeral arrangements for these turds, because what I did to them was absolutely disgusting. After this orgy of death and arrows, we went back to camp and I found an O'Driscoll straggler. I'm sure he wasn't expecting the BDSM lassoing I pulled on his ass, but hey, this is a Wild West, baby. You gotta be ready for anything. The heist we learned of earlier was a train robbery, and without a doubt we were going to hit this thing. But before we do that though, let's quickly discuss the plan this run. Operation My Dad Said That Anime Girls Aren't Real and Then Left to Get Some Milk is now in full effect. This run will be a very tedious one as a whole. In hindsight, I wish I went into this one more prepared for the horrors that I would be embracing. You are expected to use a gun during almost every fight in this game, so relying on throwables and my bow are going to be absolute boner kryptonite. Going through the storyline, I will be given a Nicolas Cage arsenal of weapons that I can use in my travels, but that won't matter because sorry ladies, there is only one girl in my sights. Wood harder and stronger than adamantium itself, rocking a perfect white Victoria's Secret G-string. Fuck lassos, guys. This run, stick with your bow and you will be more than golden.
Just gotta take out the trash. That was easy. Alright. Woo! What are you? I was just...
It was now time for our first heist. This display of excellence is going to have to involve the utmost precision and focus. All we gotta do is grab my bow. Grabbing my bow is all that. When the mission starts, run to your horse. Okay, it looks like no bow this mission. The boys and I hopped on the train and got to work. Lenny did the honors of being a magnet and taking every possible shot that the enemies threw at us. He was a big titty Twitch thought, and his DMs were wide open. He probably died around 18 times during the first part, and we weren't even halfway through the mission. The tactic was to go aggro and chase down every enemy with my knife. After stopping the train, it was time for another segment of Lenny getting his ass perpetually and incessantly demolished. Lenny is such a delicate device, his body merely a jewel. Though his addiction can't be regulated. After another 20 deaths, I decided to switch to my lasso, stunning them frequently while Lenny shot at them. This actually helped, and the rest of the gang showed up to give me a hand. In due time, we realized that this train belonged to a man named Leviticus Cornwall. This probably was a bad thing, but I was elated that this ROCKSTAR Games Lenny sodomy sesh was over, so I shrugged it off. With winter coming to an end, it was time to pack up camp and get out of these mountains. A little mishap later, and we were all set up in Chapter 2. Chapter 2 just started, and it already involved me giving some guy an Undertaker two-piece anime finishing move and a full-scale bar fight. This wasn't your mother's daycare anymore, because this meat monster Arthur was ready to take on the world, until Tommy had to ruin the fun and throw me through a window. Not gonna lie, he did more work than the nearby farmers plowing my butthole, but fret not, being the Brad Pitt of gaming, you know that I overcame this obstacle. Back at camp, the O'Driscoll man I lassoed told me he knew the whereabouts of the O'Driscoll leader. This disgusting species needed to go extinct, and that was exactly what we were going to do. So you're riding into enemy territory with the boys. You're given your first throwing knife, and testosterone with a little bit of adrenaline is pumping through your boners. You attack the camp, hitting them with your Hanzo aimbot pro plays. Oh my god, pentakill! And then you find out that you were lied to. The leader wasn't here, but that O'Driscoll boy was alright because he saved your life. And that meant that it was totally not time to drink and get arrested or anything like that. I mean... I've never touched a bottle in my life. I have no idea what you're talking about. Unfortunately, before doing this run, Hosea was one of my favorite characters in this anime, but now I despise him. We went off hunting, and when we encountered a bear, I was forced into Deadeye to fend him off. My first attempt at switching weapons got me murdered, but my second attempt was actually successful. Although it was successful, I was trampled by the bear, and he attempted to hug me consensually, even though this was definitely not what I wanted. Now, time to adjust a porcupine in my ass cheeks. That slimy fucking turd, Hosea, sat there, cowering in his pile of feces in fear as I was being mauled by a grizzly bear. I'm so unfriending him from MySpace. A man named Micah Bell hit me up on a dating website called cowboysandasslesschaps.com. Being the fool Arthur is, he'd do anything for anyone. Micah got put in the slammer and I was going to have to break him out. This wasn't the first time Senza stood death in its face, and as usual, he didn't even bat an eye. Not even a flinch. With my bow and arrow, I brought these guys the pain of 1,000 Asian Hanzo mains. The glorious part about these bad boys is that every hit to the chest and above is a one-shot. 100% if it wasn't for bows, this run wouldn't be feasible. With Micah saved, it was time to save another gang member, Sean. We got word that they were going to make him commit eating molten Hot Pocket right out of the microwave without letting it cool off, the highest level of torture. Blessed by the ROCKSTAR gods, I was able to bring my bow for this mission, so this should be a walk in the park. We trailed the boat Sean was on, stealth killed the baddie, and then brought the rest of these enemies to my WoW instance because I was basically farming all of them. With Sean saved, the boys are now back in town, and it was soon time for our next heist. Grabbing my bow early was incredibly vital to this heist, because the weapon system in this game is straight up gerbil dick. It is basically a gamble on whether or not you will get the items you equipped after getting off your horse. With fuel tank set in position, I was ready to blow my load. We boarded the train, and without my consent, ROCKSTAR forces me to use a repeater on these fools during this robbery. As all of these heists though, something has to go bad. The popos came, and fortunately, I was able to muster up the strength and power of my mentor Sitting Bull, and I let my arrows rain from the sky to drain the Pinkerton blood into the land. Hanzo is such a broken hero. Damn. Right after that banger of a competitive match, it was time for another. Stealing herds of sheep for V-Bucks was going to be the plan this mission. I displayed my true gaming prowess and scared off the cowpokes with my rifle. They fled in terror when they saw my Fortnite KDA, but I felt a little dirty on the inside using this gun. Like when you are forced to use your hand when you are out of toilet paper. Returning back to town, I got a DM from Leviticus Cornwall, the man who owned the train that we robbed in the first chapter. It's funny how his Christian Mingle profile mentioned nothing about f***ing me, because that is exactly what he did. This man had me by the nipples. Him and his men had our gang members at gunpoint, and this is one of the parts in the rules that I was talking about. When you confront them, you immediately go into Deadeye. I tried multiple times to stop the Deadeye and switch to my bow, but I just couldn't, forcing me to shoot John's captor. After saving John, I put on my Barney costume and straight up Pee Wee Herman molested Cornwall's men with my bow. Chapter 3 begins with Dutch, Hosea, and I heading into town to see if there are any single locals in our area. This eventually turned into us helping the local police department to get on their good side. I chased down some naughty boys that were caught with black market Powerpuff Girls hentai, watched some dude get Home Alone TKO'd, and then stopped this train. This was all great until silly me totally forgot that getting off your horse in the Wild West crashes your f***ing game. Woo! Yes! After repeating the mission, you already know your boy had to show off his level 100 sneak he recently just got, and did a Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater sneak mission. This Romeo and Juliet roleplay fest was a breeze, but after that mission, it was time to put some hair on our chests and ice to our nipples. We had another heist ready, and this time there was no way that this one was going to fuck up. Until I found out the carriage we were robbing belonged to Leviticus Turdwall, and he sent his men after us. We ran away from his men and hid in a barn. I crossed my toes and pubic hairs hoping to God that I would have my bow after this cutscene, and fortunately, it looks like J-Man above was looking over me because I had my bow. This would have been straight ass cheeks if I didn't. A couple of 6 times damage sneak shots with my bow, and these men were hit with my patented signature moves. With that robbery there was no way in hell I can take 2 L's in a row, so it was time to do another robbery with J-Station to get my mind off of all the failed robberies recently. A man of Arthur's nomenclature and expertise is accustomed to this outlaw chattery business. My first try led me to failing because your washed up YouTuber Senza missed every single arrow. My second try, I went completely teeth to testicles, quick scoping the stage driver and bringing home that victory royale. After robbing them though, it turned out that this was actually going to be a robbery-ception because the O'Driscolls were waiting for us not even a mile down the road. A couple of deaths and a few farts later, I channeled my inner Buffalo Bill and popped off on these fools. My undying and insatiable thirst for money led me to committing another illegal act. We should have robbed this bad boy 14 robberies ago. We rode into Valentine and of course, not even 1 minute in and I'm already screwed. Getting off my horse, I couldn't grab my bow. This was like trying to smell a fart underwater. My bow was right there, but I just couldn't grab it. That meant that I had to go into this bank robbery with high hopes and a dream. The robbery went well and I totally didn't blow myself the same way a priest claims he didn't the entire boys only choir. The pigs showed up as always and the game threw me into Deadeye once again. Once my screen turned yellow, the symptoms of an anxiety-fueled stroke were starting to overcome me. But this time, I didn't need to kill anyone in Deadeye. I easily canceled it and started cross-map throwing knife /tomahawking these fools. One man threatened me with a your mom joke followed with the 360 quickscope, but he was lagging and got my dicking. After helping the local police steal some moonshine, giving it to the public for free, and bringing a few baddies to my personal WWE SmackDown vs. Raw arena of testosterone, I was then kidnapped during a mission when we tried to make a truce with the O'Driscolls. Not much to say during this part. They wanted to hold me for ransom, but this just wasn't my forte. This whole situation was making my dick small, so I needed out. Breaking out of there was easy, and I scared off the rest of the O'Driscolls with a straightforward gesture to let them know I wasn't messing around. After being reunited with the gang, it was time to meet them in the town nearby. Sean was shot not even 1 minute in this place. The town was onto us. The facade was up. Let's have a moment of silence for all that will die for Sean's death. Okay, now that is over, let me show you a clip of me using an ancient technique I learned from cowboysandasslesschaps.com. Totally not sponsored, but hey, if you could sponsor. This was where Red Dead did it to me again. They had one of my day one homies held hostage. After watching him get domed over and over, I had to shoot my second enemy with a gun, leading me to 2 necessary kills so far. After escaping from that nightmare, I was greeted with another sweaty diaringus on my chest back at camp. The local family of inbred brokeback mountain dirty redneck bitches kidnapped John's son, Jack, and there was no way in hell that we were going to let this slide. With my bow equipped and a little prayer, the gang and I showed up to get that boy back. Dutch confronted them, but it quickly turned into a firefight. Good thing I brought my wood to keep this fire alive. The mission was a breeze with the luck of my bow coming with me, and after pillaging the place, turns out the boy wasn't here. They sold him to a mob man named Angelo Bronte. So after taking out the old woman's sons, or lovers I guess, we set the only thing that she had left to burn. Thanks to the fire, we stirred up a nice cocktail of commotion and chattery, so we had to pack up camp and move before we were caught. Being the seasoned nomads we were, John and I went to scope out the Playboy mansion that would soon become our new home. The enemies living here were not welcoming at all, but I wouldn't be either if I was practicing illegal dark magician Yu-Gi-Oh magic. I say that because this man was rightfully murdered for sleeping in the bed that I now decided was mine. When I came back to remove his body, he was on the ground, and my tomahawk was nowhere to be found.
I'm scared.
We were now in chapter 4, and it was time to hit the big city of Saint Denis. The locals here are pleasant, street life is booming, and you have the codename kids next door here to ruin your day and steal all of your coin. Fortunately, after getting it back, they told me where Bronte was, and we were going to pay him a visit. After a bit of chit chat, we discovered that John's son was okay, but before we could get him back, we had to complete a small job. Like taking candy from a diabetic man that didn't want the candy anyway, this shit was easy. I dispatched the fools with my bow, and I went back to being terrible at running away from the popos. Jack was back in our arms, and guess what? It was time to turn our lives around and become good-working and honorable men and women of society. With my haircut and a new suit, I was going to get a job. Just kidding, plot twist. It's time for a heist, bitch. The plan is plain and simple. Hop on this boat full of Chicago yuppies and rich boys and steal their money in a game of poker undetected. Until, you know, the man giving me the money had to make a racist joke towards my Mexican gang member. Another dead-eye moment hit me, and I couldn't do anything about it. Waiting it out would get me killed, and I even tried to hit the dude with my award-winning accuracy in his middle finger. But even that murdered him, leading to the 3rd death so far that was needed by a gun. The guards were onto us, and this was definitely the hardest part of the run so far. I was stripped of all my weapons before boarding this boat, so all I had was a gun that was given to me by Javier that I couldn't use. Being destroyed by these men with guns was my fetish, but just like anything, eventually you get tired of it. They were having a field day on my butt cheeks. I started developing a tactic though, taking out a couple of them and then just running back into cover afterwards, but even that started to break apart. Jumping ship wasn't an option either. In my moment of despair, I remembered a quote from the vanguard of every young boy's wet dream: "Nobody's perfect. You live and you learn it." This lit a fire in my boner. It made me remember that she was wrong. I am perfect. Being overwhelmed by their bullets was a problem, but thanks to my 5-head brain and brilliance being an anomaly to mankind, I discovered a new tactic. Shooting around the enemies and not at them makes them turn their focus towards you. Javier can take out the rest of them. This process takes a bit because Javier has the aim of a Call of Duty mobile player, but this was a big development for this entire run. If I could avoid the L there, I was basically unstoppable. Angelo Bronte told us during a party of a train station in Saint Denis that would be perfect for some big boy cash. It was going to bring us much wealth, and that it did. It brought us a wealthy amount of disappointment, just as my existence to my parents. There was nothing here but a couple of dollars and a 7-nation army of policemen. I had my bow fortunately, but when we hopped on the trolley to escape, I couldn't use it. After a few fails, I remembered that all I had to do was buy us some time. So I started shooting the ground like a disoriented drunk, and it actually worked. The trolley crashed and I was reunited with with my bow. The rest of the mission was freelo at this point. It was time to hop on a boat and make our merry way to bring spaghetti, panini, bitch, and Uber Eats delivery of my dick. God bless the fact that I could bring my bow on this mission. These arrows gave my enemies a one-stop ticket to Valhalla, baby. Frick smoking beers when you could smoke some good old guards with a few arrows. With Bronte in hand, it was time to make our escape. Bronte was glued to my shoulder, so the only way to take him down was to yeet myself right at him, so he could knock off Bronte and I could pop him with the quick scope from my bow. Dutch drowned Bronte in the river and he was now out of our hair. One more heist was needed and then we could finally get out of this place. This last bank robbery has been sketched out flawlessly. Dutch being our heavenly heist architect, this plan was clearly fabricated and there was no way that this could mess up. Everything has messed up so far, so woo! What can go wrong, baby? We got this. Things went wrong, as usual. Pinkertons knew of the heist, and they had us cornered like dogs. This victory royale was seemingly out of reach. Hosea died out of karma for almost letting me die to that bear, and Lenny was shot on the roof as we made an escape. If you ask me though, those were our weakest links, so I'm okay with all of this. Cross-map dynamites for my god arm just wasn't enough. Even though I had my bow, there were too many of them. We decided to hide out in a room nearby, because there was no way to get out of here with this much heat. Night came around and we skedaddled. We couldn't stay here any longer, so we decided to hitch a ride on a boat to stay low for a little while. There's nothing that can possibly go wrong with this, guys. Chapter 5 begins with a shipwreck on Cartoon Network's Total Drama Island. After finding the homies, we were immediately imprisoned to be sex workers and sold off to men in lands far away. After an attack by the locals on this island and a daring attempt to take out our captors, we escaped. Javier was left behind and we fled into the jungle, but I was going to come back for that man. Saving Javier was not going to be something that I enjoyed. It took a whole lot of shooting the floor and hoping that Dutch would kill the rest of them. After getting past the first part and changing the septic tank that was my diaper, I was forced to take on an entire army with my knife. Simply running back into the forest and having a few follow is the key here. After your guerrilla warfare session, wait by the rocks and watch these dudes take a couple steps off a cliff that was clearly designed for only one step. If you've made it this far, then go ahead and take off your shirt and get ready to grow some inches on your penis, because it's nerf or nothing, baby. After another sneak mission and rushing an army of men with my overwhelming masculinity, it was time to get off of this island. The Colombian military found out that us outlaws were here, and they wanted to spank our bums. I was forced to shoot this poor rock for almost 14 minutes straight. Poor thing was in the wrong place at the wrong time. After Dutch and the men killed off the remaining soldiers and the battleship kindly doing me a favor of griefing his teammates, I was forced to use a cannon to take down the ship. I tried avoiding it but was clapped, Minecraft creeper style. My only option was to shoot the ship with the cannon. I won't count this because technically those men were breathing and I didn't give them permission to do so. Before getting off this island, we needed to save our captain. My knife was basically my Thanos gauntlet and I snapped all of these enemies out of existence. While leaving, I was forced to kill the mob boss with this cannon, leading me to my fourth necessary kill. We made our way back to the homeland and I found the location of our remaining gang members. I didn't even get a moment to sit down and reunite with the boys without being attacked by the Pinkertons once again. Surprisingly, I thought this mission would make me fail this run, but it actually didn't. You don't have to shoot a single bullet at these Pinkerton. I didn't have my bow, but I had a ton of throwables, and being a man of my caliber, a seasoned warrior, I was made for this shit. My gang members told me to hop on the minigun, but frick that. All I needed were these throwing knives. Our location was compromised, and we needed a new home for the 1000th time. After hitting the homeland, I discovered that John was taken prisoner during that bank robbery. We had to save his ass once again. On the way to meet with Sadie to save John, I fell off my horse in a coughing fit. Doc from Rainbow Six Siege told me I had tuberculosis and my days were now numbered. This made me big sad. Don't worry though, I almost have all 7 Dragon Balls, so hopefully we could bring him back. It was time to save our man John Marston. We took sail in our boat and put on our best panties because things were about to get spicy. On the prison grounds, Sadie and I hopped into a guard tower to scope out the situation. This market was saturated with inmates, but I was looking for the one that has been blessed by every holy priest this world has to offer because he was being carried by me, the video game god. After finding out I was gifted with the useless talent of being good at cross-map bow shots, I grabbed one of the guards hostage and forced them to give me my man back. I saved John for like probably the 9 millionth time, and that was all she wrote, folks. I did get overwhelmed once, but these guards couldn't take the slew of my arrows and dynamite. After saving John, Dutch wanted me to join him and Micah on a little meeting with Cornwall. This blood feud has been going on for far too long, and Dutch, being the good man he is, wanted Turdwall out of this equation. The good part was I was able to bring my bow on this mission. The bad part is I should probably enjoy the limited time I had, because we were now insert bad word here. To be frank, at this moment in time, I would rather swap places with SpongeBob during that episode where he goes to rock bottom. Micah, basically the coked out version of Owen Wilson, wanted us to retrieve some dynamite for a future heist. Everything was going swell. I was able to use my bow, and I was doing what I did best, living fast and eating complete ass. And then we had to escape. I'm sorry to say it, boys, but this run is over. I was forced to sit as a passenger while Bill maneuvered the cart full of dynamite. Bows unfortunately can't be used when you're a passenger on a carriage, nor can any throwables. I tried the whole shooting the ground gimmick. I even tried waiting it out, but the horde of Pinkerton scum turds always have something to say. I tried again and again, and I just couldn't do it. My only option was to use my gun to headshot the horses. Shooting the horses actually doesn't kill the riders, but the impact of them hitting the ground does. I tested it out a few times, and you could see my reticle is still red on these Pinkerton before they hit the ground. But whether or not you think this counts, unfortunately to me it doesn't. I've had far too many exceptions, and I was technically killing these creatures with a gun. To add on to this, the next mission involved me watching Colmel Driscoll get his well-deserved jewelry piece of a noose around his neck. This mission forces you to look into the glory hole of your sniper and help with covering fire. One of the enemies here needs to be killed by Arthur in order for your squad to continue moving forward, thus making me fail the challenge yet again. Going to a peace meeting to stop the incessant ass division by the American government on the Native Americans, partaking in a counterattack against the government so Dutch can basically use these poor souls to his devices, all of that was a breeze. Even breaking a Native American chief's son out of jail meant no match for my gaming prowess. I'll tell you now, I'll never forget the bonding time I had with John while we both got railed by a steel hunk, or when Chris B threw himself off of a cliff to save me from the horrors that is sex before marriage. To make this all worse, I was even hit with another mission where I was forced to kill. The last mission of the game forces me to protect Sadie with a sniper while she goes to save Abigail from enemy captors. She can't proceed forward without me at least killing one of the guards. Every single mission besides these were 100% doable with the bow or throwable weapons, but I've had far too many exceptions. We find out that Micah has been the rat this whole time and was working with the Pinkertons, spoiling every single one of our plans. Dutch went AWOL, and this gang wasn't the same anymore. He was on Micah's side, and after telling him what Micah's final form truly was, he wanted John and I dead. Poor Chris B lost his life giving me all that he could, and I told John to get out of here as I held off hordes of Pinkerton that were coming to kill us. A Mortal Kombat confrontation occurred with Micah and I, and right when I'm about to hit him with the fatality, Dutch stops me. This was my end of the line. I was terminally sick and laying here to wait out imminent death. I hope there's Fortnite, Minecraft, and V-Bucks in the afterlife, because Arthur was coming and he deserves the very best. This is the end of Arthur's story, and this will be the second L we have taken on this channel. This will forever be remembered in history books as the time Senza, the man with the chiseled jawline and fortitude of a Siberian tiger, was stopped in his video game pillaging tracks by the steel wall that is Red Dead 2. You can't beat Red Dead 2 without guns. This run was a long and tedious one, and thank you guys so much for watching if you've made it this far. I did this so none of you poor souls had to. If you like what I do here, be sure to lasso that like button so I could come over and give you a smooch. If you enjoy the crusades we go on, go ahead and comment #Shrek2. Thank you to the beautiful and illustrious channel members that help make this all possible, and I'll see you boys in the next one.